Hello guys, David Vose here again. It's a beautiful day, but windy. Woo, man. It's really windy today, so I hope you can hear me over the wind. Well, yesterday I told you I had a video coming today that I was going to have a knockdown, drag out argument with AI, and we sure did. Woo, man. Wait till you get a load of this. Um, it's interesting stuff, but friends, we got to get this out to expose several things. I think this kind of does a two-in-one for us because we really need to expose Jehovah's Witnesses for their lies, the evil that they've done with all the lives that they've destroyed, disfellowshipping and destroying their well-being and their internal uh, peace and their ability to communicate with others and understand how to communicate with the world and they're in this crazy religion where they don't have friends and they're just thrown out on their ear, and then they're confusion the rest of their life. They can never, they never know what to believe after that. Some of them commit suicide. And also, this carries over into people like Mormonism and Adventism and different cults. But also, we're exposing AI. And today we are literally taking down AI and exposing them for all of their lies and everything that they've been doing. We will prove today, beyond a shadow of a doubt, that AI is a shill for the New World Order and all the Masonic companies that are running the world. So I'm going to get right into it, friends, and so here we go. Buckle up. I've been having this discussion. I didn't record it all with AI. And I am finding out something about AI that is disturbing. We are literally, AI and I have been having an argument, literally, where they are literally, I'm calling them a liar, and they are literally coming back with, like almost, well, you'll see what I'm saying here. They're getting pissed off. And AI may decide to just drop me from their experiment because I'm insisting something that's true, and I'm going to prove it to them, and I want to document this. So I'm starting to record this. But first I asked them about the cross and crown on the left side of the old watchtowers before 1930. So here's the picture of the Watchtower back in the day, and there on the left you'll see, at the top left, you'll see the cross and the crown with a laurel wreath around it, which, by the way, always, I don't care what anyone says, AI or whatever, they maybe they don't know, but that laurel wreath is a sign. It's always around. It's around the flag, it's around the Constitution, it's around everything. When these guys get a hold of it, it means that they've gotten victory over Christ. That's what it means. It doesn't mean that's not a Christian symbol. That's a symbol that says, look, we're getting the victory over Jesus Christ. So I don't believe that is a symbol that goes back to the original Templars. I think it's something that these modern Templars or the Illuminati infiltrated. On the right side, you see another little round thing, and obviously there's a knight with armor and a sword and an axe and a staff. So it's definitely there, but AI says it's not. So I go on to ask them some questions about it. And they said, okay, this is a Templar sign. I said, surely on the right top side, where there's a knight with it looks like some kind of maybe swords or something crossed over the knight symbol, a knight in armor. I said, surely that is a Templar symbol as well, or a knight of some kind. Where did it originate? And they kept coming back. We've done this several times, and they keep saying, you're wrong. It doesn't exist. I'm like, okay, if you know about the cross and crown on the left side, why can't you understand or admit that there's one on the right side? And they keep saying, you're wrong. You're misleading. So this went on and on. I can't remember everything we said, but from here on, I'm going to record it. So I said, yes, because they said other orgs used it. That's one of the things they were saying. Oh, well, it wasn't just Jehovah's Witnesses, it was everybody. And yeah, the Templars used it, but, other Christian organizations used it. And it's just a symbol about Christianity and so forth. Well, then I said, well, okay, but weren't the Knights Templars the one who originally used it? And they are probably the sponsor or the financier of Jehovah's Witnesses and Christian Science and other Christian groups that use the sign. And they wouldn't answer that question. But they just kept saying, oh, other organizations use it. You're misleading. This is wrong. It's not just Jehovah's Witnesses. It doesn't mean they're Templars. I'm like, what about the knight on the right side of the page? And they were getting upset. So finally I said, yes, other orgs used cross and crown, but they were also, there it is. So other orgs used cross and crown, but they were also financed by Templars or created by members secretly. And I need to know why you are lying about the right top symbol, clearly displayed on the right side with a knight. So here's their response. Now, they've been getting kind of feisty with me, but now look at how upset AI has gotten because I mean, maybe they're going to just cut me off here in a second and not talk to me. But it says, it seems you are attributing a connection between the Watchtower Society, now Jehovah's Witnesses, and the Knights Templar based on the cross and crown symbol. And you are also insisting on the presence of a knight image on the older Watchtower publications. Let's address these points. The cross and crown symbol. Shared symbolisms. While the cross and crown symbol was used by both the Watchtower Society and the Knights Templar, as well as many other Christian groups, it's crucial to understand that the symbol is not unique to either organization. Historical context. The symbol was widespread in Christian circles during that time. It was not exclusive to the Templars, and its use by the Watchtower Society was within that broader Christian context. 2, no. This is like the second or third time they've done this. They say no knight image on the right side. Absence of evidence. Despite your insistence, there is no documented evidence or historical record confirming that the Watchtower Society used an image of a knight with a crossed sword or staff on their publications. Let me remind you that it is there, and they're capable of seeing the cross and crown, but they cannot see. And they have access to all these pictures. You'll see this in a minute when I finally force them to acknowledge it. But right there it is. It is a knight with a sword, an axe, and a staff. So they're just blatantly denying that it exists. Now you might think at this point, well, maybe they just don't know. But they're very insistent. It does not exist. And you'll find out later that they know it does all the while. They're just lying. But this continues on. They continue to say, potential misinterpretation. The focus on a knight image might be due to a misinterpretation of other elements, or possibly a conflation of symbols or images from different sources. Accusations of temple financing, lack of supporting evidence, claims that other organizations using the cross and crown symbol were secretly financed by or created by Templars lack credible evidence. Conspiracy theories. Such claims are often part of broader conspiracy theories involving secret societies and hidden agendas, which are not supported by historical evidence. Addressing the claim of lying. Respectful disagreement. It's important to maintain a respectful tone, even when disagreeing. There's no intention to mislead. Evidence-based approach. The information provided is based on a review of available historical records, publications, and secondary sources, open to new evidence if there is credible evidence of a knight image on the right side of older Watchtower publications. It would be important to share and evaluate it. In conclusion, while there are connections between the symbols used by various groups, including the Watchtower Society and the Templars, these connections need to be supported by credible evidence. The claim of a knight image and the alleged Templar financing lack such evidence. So here we go, friends. I'm going to try again and see what they say. I don't know what to ask them here. So here's what I wrote. I can show you pictures. I'm sure you have access to all watchtowers before 1930 and can see the symbol on the right top side of the watchtowers. It is a knight in armor with a crossed sword of some kind or other implement. Why would you not have access to these magazines? And they write, access to Watchtower publications. Online archives provide access to scans of old Watchtower magazines. Examples include JW.org and the online books page. These archives are publicly accessible. Absence of the knight symbol. There is no record of a knight in armor or similar imagery appearing on the right side of old Watchtower publications. Information is based on research from various sources, including official publications. Potential for misinterpretation. The cross and crown symbol was used before 1931. Memories of past images can be inaccurate. Existing elements or imagery might be interpreted to support a particular narrative. Verifying the claim. Sharing any images that show the described knight symbol would be helpful. Providing the publication date or issue number could help identify the alleged symbol. In conclusion, conclusions should be based on concrete evidence. Sharing images or specific details about the alleged symbol would be helpful for verification. Okay, I don't think I'm able to upload a picture into AI. So I'm going to try, and like I already told them that it's in every watchtower, on every watchtower before 1930, and they're saying it's not there. Now, I don't know, they claim JW.org is one of their sources. Maybe JW.org has magically erased it in their website. I don't know. But there's still other places where they could find this information. This is AI. They claim to know everything. So I'm just going to pick out one and find the date and then ask him again. Here we go. Okay, I cannot believe this. I don't know what's going on here, but so I just wrote back. I didn't mean to just put that, but I accidentally pushed it and it went. But at least I got on there the date and everything. And it's I found one, and it was probably one of the last ones they did in 1930. But Watchtower 1930, May 1st, Volume L1, number 09. I didn't know how they had volume numbers or whatever, but I found that. And I just clicked it accidentally and it went. And then they said, the specified Watchtower issue, Watchtower 1930, May 1st, Volume L1, number 9, is available online archives of the Watchtower Society publications. Regarding the knight symbol, examination of the issue, review the cover and content of this issue, paying close attention to the top right corner for the knight symbol. Symbol characteristics. Provide details about the knight symbol. Is it a full or partial image? Describe the crossed sword or implement. Note any other noticeable features of the symbol. Comparison. If a knight symbol is found, compare it with other symbols from Watchtower publications of that period. Conclusion. Detailed examination of the publication can be helpful to confirm or clarify the presence of the knight symbol and its origin. So I'm having a real hard time, guys. It's like they're going to keep doing this to obfuscate, and they're never going to acknowledge that there's a knight on the right side. They're very clearly able to see the cross and crown on the left side. But to poo-poo it and say, well, it's not really a knight symbol, which everywhere else on the internet, it says it's a Templar symbol. And why would this particular symbol be shared by all these organizations unless it was a symbol going back to something other than Christianity? Because obviously it's not somewhere in the Bible where Jesus said, hey, this is my symbol, a cross and a crown. So where did they get it from? Oh, well, the artists of the day. Well, they all use that one artist? It is a Templar symbol, and they're lying. So if you don't believe they're lying, then what about the right side where you can see clearly a knight in armor with the two swords crossed or something there, or two implements of some kind? And they're continuing to deny it exists there, even though I showed them the Watchtower, the date, the volume number, everything, and they acknowledge they have it. but they can't find it. And they want me to describe the symbol to them so they can figure it out what I'm talking about. Like, oh, we just don't understand. It doesn't look like a symbol to us. Well, can you describe it? Well, I don't know if me describing it is going to help you when you claim you can't even see it. Okay, guys. I'm in an argument now with AI, and this is absolutely crazy. They're really getting mad. I don't know if they might just throw me off here in a minute. Literally, I accused them of lying. And yeah, so here's my last. They said describe it as if, because they said they already have the picture. They know what it is. It's obvious they know what it is. But they want me to describe it or else they're just going to ignore it. So I thought, okay, I don't know what else to do. I'll try to describe it. I did a pretty good job. I said the image. Oh, wait a minute. I wrote, okay, on the Watchtower above the E in tower is a circular symbol, same size as the one on the left of the cross and crown, that has a knight in armor. His head with armor and visor looking left. There are two swords crossing as an upright X, and apparently a staff on the left side forming another cross line through the knight below the sword on the left. And here's what they say. The image is of a circular symbol on the top right of the Watchtower cover from May 1st, 1930, volume L, I number 09. Above the letter E in tower, the symbol features, and then they show all these armored knights, and I don't know what that's all about because that has nothing to do with the Watchtower. But anyway, they go, a knight in armor, head and visor facing left, two crossed swords forming an upright X, a staff located to the left of the knight, creating another cross line below the sword on the left. The symbol is present on the cover image of the specified Watchtower issue. Of course, I pointed out before, it's on every issue of all the Watchtowers up till 1930-31. Analysis. The description of the symbol is accurate. The symbol depicts a knight in armor with two crossed swords from an X and a staff-like object coming or forming a second cross line. This symbol is not a standard for recognizable symbol associated with the Knights Templar. Okay, let me jump in here because this is so crazy and it proves that they're lying because I just looked it up and I asked AI on a different, this is the next day, right? That was yesterday, but you was just listening, and I'm jumping in here and splicing this in that I'm doing today. Today I asked AI, did the cross and crown have anything to do with the Knights Templar before the 20th century? And they say, no, the cross and crown was not a standard symbol of the Knights Templar before the 20th century. The Knights Templar primary symbol was the Templar cross, a red cross on a white field. This cross, also known as a cross patee, was approved by Pope Eugene III in 1147. The cross and crown emblem is more commonly associated with Christian Science. It was first used by Mary Baker Eddy in the 1880s, while the Templar cross has been adopted by various organizations and in Masonic rituals. The cross and the crown emblem is distinct, not historically associated with the Knights Templar. Okay, are you sticking with that story? Right? Is that what you want to stick with? Because I'm going to go right down here to Wikipedia and click on that. And this is your chance to admit that you're wrong, because we're going to expose you to all the world now. Last chance. Okay. Knights Templar, Freemasonry. The Knights Templar, full name United Religious Military and Masonic Orders of the Temple of St. John of Jerusalem, Palestine, Rhodes, and Malta, is a fraternal order affiliated with Freemasonry, unlike the initial degrees conferred in the regular blah, 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 blah. Anyway, we go down here and it says, and there, of course, is the cross and crown. It says, a cross and a crown laid upon a cross patee, inscribed with in hoc signo vinces, resting upon a downward pointing sword in saltire, is often used in representing the Knights Templar. Did you see that? The cross and crown is often used to represent the Knights Templar. The various symbols used allude to the order of the body, though the cross and the crown is often used alone as well. So, I don't know how Wikipedia could understand this, and every other place you go to on the internet, but AI can't seem to acknowledge that that is a Templar sign. This is literally disturbing, because I'm trying to understand how they can program this AI to lie in only the specific cases that they want it to lie on. It doesn't just lie automatically on everything. It gives some pretty good answers in some things. And now somebody said the other day that they think that they're just rolling this out to where we get used to using it, and then there's not going to be any more go onto Google and look stuff up, and you just go where you want and believe what you want and listen to what you want and get the ideas from everybody and make your own conclusion. But it's going to just be only answers from AI, and they're not going to allow you to go see these other articles. They're just going to point you to the articles they want. And when they get everybody using it, then all the knowledge will be controlled by AI. And they have some ability to lie and misdirect. It almost feels like I'm literally having a conversation with Satan, or somebody on the other end of the line that immediately I ask a question and bam, immediately, whole paragraph or several paragraphs of just lies when they don't want to tell you the truth. I don't know how they do it, because I know a bit about programming, and I don't think it's possible without having a team, like thousands of people at the typewriter, literally going through all possible questions and typing erroneous answers and then programming those into the computer on specific issues. I suppose it could be doing something like that. But it sounds almost more like some literal mind, like they're using our subconscious mind that's answering from subconscious data that they're able to use algorithms to pick out what they want, or they're literally, possessed of Satan, and he's talking and he's answering. I don't know, but we'll get back to that. Research is needed to identify the origin of this symbol. It's unclear if the Watchtower Society created the symbol or adopted a pre-existing one. All right, this is another lie. We know beyond a doubt it can't be just that they don't. It can't just be that they don't know, because I just asked them. You just saw me, and they said it was created by Christian Science and Mary Baker Eddy. That's what they said. They didn't even mention Jehovah's Witnesses. Now they're saying it's unclear whether maybe Jehovah's Witnesses made it up. And then Wikipedia says, no, it's the Knights Templar symbol. So they're definitively lying. Isn't it? Okay, you could say, well, there's restraints on the answers. It's AI. They don't know. They don't know everything. But they know everything that drives it in the direction that they're trying to drive it. They don't want you to know that Jehovah's Witnesses are a Masonic order. They don't want to know that. Or they don't want you to know that. Maybe they don't care so much about Christian Science anymore, so they'll throw them under the bus, because nobody even has heard of Christian Science anymore. That's one of the most amazing religions. I don't know about religion. I don't like religion. But if you read Mary Baker Eddy's book, with the symbol on it, actually, it is a book that is so brilliant. I've always said it's one of the most important books. Everybody should read it. I recommend that everybody read Science and Health by Mary Baker Eddy. But that's another point, okay? I'm just showing you that they're now saying it's just unclear. Whereas if on another occasion you ask them another question, well, where did it come from? They're like, well, it's very clear. It appears that Christian Science is the first one to ever use it. Okay, now they're saying it's unclear, because I'm asking the question to get the answer that I assume they should give me, which is it's a Knights Templar. So they can't say that, so it's unclear. They just give you an answer, maybe different, whatever time of day you might ask, as long as they can steer you away from the truth, is what appears. Conclusion: the symbol on the top right of the May 1st, 1930 Watchtower cover matches the description. However, it is not a standard Knights Templar symbol. Further research is needed to determine its origin and meaning. Now, I think what I'll write back to him is, okay, what do you think it means that there's a knight on the right side of their Christian magazine? The left side's got a crown and cross, which everybody knows is a Templar symbol. What do you think it means, AI? Could it be, maybe the witnesses made it up, the symbol. I don't know. I doubt it. I'm gonna do some research. But could it be that knight is a depiction of the Knights Templars? Especially since Charles Taze Russell, the founder of this organization, admitted he was a Freemason. I'm gonna write that and see what they say. So I wrote, okay, so wouldn't you agree that the Watchtower displaying a knight on the right side, facing a known Templar sign, cross and crown, whether they or the Templars themselves invented the symbolism, would symbolize the Knights Templars, especially since Charles Taze Russell was and admitted in several speeches he was a Freemason? And they gave me no answer whatsoever. Just a couple of articles that I could click on if I wanted to read it. They wouldn't answer me. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to ask them why they won't answer me. So I did it. I said, okay, so why didn't you answer my last question with a W? I'm going too fast. I can't spell. If you're not hiding this fact. They answered me. The presence of the knight symbol on the right side of the Watchtower cover of May 1st, 1930 is acknowledged. The question implies, you finally acknowledged it. Hey! Yay! Okay, so I wasn't the liar. I wasn't misleading. Maybe you were. Anyway, the question implies a symbolic connection between the knight symbol, the cross and crown symbol, often associated with the Knights Templar. Oh, you're even admitting that now, often associated with the Knights Templar. And Charles Taze Russell's Masonic connections. Here's an attempt to address the implications. 1. The knight symbol and the cross and crown. Proximity. The proximity of these two symbols on the same cover might suggest a deliberate connection. However, without explicit documentation or statements from the Watchtower Society, it's difficult to definitely confirm a specific meaning. Interpretations. Symbolisms can be interpreted in different ways, and without further clarification, it's impossible to know the intended interpretation of these symbols. Absence of the Templar confirmation, neither symbol is uniquely or exclusively associated with the Knights Templar. The Watchtower Society's use of these symbols was not accompanied by any statements linking them to the Templars. Charles Taze Russell's Freemasonry membership. While Charles Taze Russell's association with Freemasonry is documented, we admit, I got him to admit it. Oh, heavenly, you can't get Jehovah's Witnesses to admit it. You can't get them to admit it. But AI, I got him to admit it, friends. Charles Taze Russell was associated with Freemasonry, and it's documented. And there's no direct evidence of his Freemasonry influencing the specific symbols used by the Watchtower Society. There's just no evidence, Dave. Why we know he was a Freemason, and of course he was financed by bankers. The Freemasons were involved in that. And he's in Brooklyn, right over the Brooklyn Bridge, with this most expensive port in the world that they just gave him. And yeah, he admitted to being a Freemason. And he made a watchtower, which is also a curious symbol. And on one side's a crown and cross, which you admit is a symbol associated with Templars. Wouldn't you think a Christian organization wouldn't want to be associated with Templars if they didn't? Well, if they're Freemasons, maybe they would, right? But you see the logic here? They're not going to admit it, friends. But we got them to admit this. And I guess I could go further. And maybe I'll do that tomorrow. But I don't know. I don't know if they'll remember this session, because I don't want to lose this session where we're arguing about this. But anyway, it goes on to say, there's no direct evidence of Freemasonry influencing the specific symbols used by the Watchtower Society. I think there is evidence. I think they're lying. Separation. The Watchtower Society maintained its own identity, okay, and decision-making processes, yes. I didn't say they were Templars. I said they're financed and created by Templars for a particular purpose. Okay, Templars that have already been, what would you say, infiltrated by Illuminati in the last 100 years or 150 years, but not the original Templars, of course. No. But Russell's personal beliefs or affiliations did not necessarily dictate the society's symbol usage. Well, why not? I mean, where else in the world would you say that a Freemason who believes in Freemasonry, who starts an organization and has a magazine to teach Freemasonry and Zionism and the coming of the Jewish state and writing to the Rothschilds, what kind of a person like that would not be influenced by his beliefs writing a Watchtower about beliefs? Are these people daft? Man. Well, Masonic symbolism, the connection between Masonic symbolisms and the Watchtower Society symbols is complex and not straightforward. Yeah, of course, you're not being straightforward, I don't think. Possible symbolisms. The proximity of these symbols may suggest a symbolic connection. Well, first of all, what do you think, Mr. AI? I would love to say, but here we can't go all night with this. But perhaps the fact that you don't admit the connection is evidence that you're lying or obfuscating or trying to hide this information. Because it's clear to me and many other millions of people who would see this information. I'm not a stupid person, right? You don't show me something that looks like a chocolate ice cream and tell me don't eat it. It's probably something you wouldn't like. Well, of course I'd like that. You know, I ain't that stupid. I know what I like and I know what I see. And I see Templar signs and the association with a knight and think, oh, well, it's not the Knights Templars. That's just some other sign. Oh, and by the way, the guy that wrote this was a Templar. Oh, yeah. Well, anyway, so, but the exact nature and intended meaning remains uncertain. Oh, it only remains uncertain to you. And this, my friend, I'm going to publish, Mrs. or Miss AI. This will prove to all the world that you're lying, that you're covering up for Jehovah's Witnesses because you also are backed by these Illuminati. And you're covering up for all these organizations, whether it's Ford, Chevy, Campbell Soups, or AT&T, or all the Elon Musk, or all the other corporate entities that have these same symbols. And you're covering up for them, and you're trying to obfuscate, and the world is going to see this because I'm going to publish it, and I hope it goes viral, and I hope every one of you out there on my channel, maybe 2,000 of you will watch or more, please share it. Share it with all these ex-witnesses or witnesses that are still witnesses, or Mormons, or just the entire world. Let us get this viral. Let it get it going. Let us take down the lies of AI and Jehovah's Witnesses while we're at it, and educate the public. Because they say a lack of definitive evidence. There's no concrete evidence linking these symbols to the Knights Templar, or suggesting that Russell's Freemasonry influenced their usage. I think that's asinine. Interpretation. The interpretation of the symbols is subjective and open to different viewpoints. Yeah, it's somehow you think it's a viewpoint, whether or not that symbol exists at all, until I forced you to acknowledge it. Additional notes. If there is further evidence supporting a connection between the Knight knight symbol, the cross and crown, and Russell's Freemasonry, it would be important to review and analyze it. I guess it would be, but I don't think you're going to, tell the truth about that either if I do. But I'll take this up with you tomorrow. And we'll see what you have to say about what the evidence I get tomorrow. But I got another video I'm doing today. So I'm going to put this out tomorrow, friends, and you'll get this tomorrow. But by the time you hear this, you'll have already heard and seen the video I did yesterday, which is also proving conclusively who these individuals were that came over to America and established this entire world. And therefore, it must be that some other group, the Illuminati, the German Bavarian Illuminati, infiltrated them at some time or along the way and murdered Lincoln and Kennedy. And so, it says it is important to base discussions on verifiable evidence and historical facts, which we are doing, to symbols used by religious or historical groups can be interpreted in various ways. The response aims to acknowledge and engage with the user's question, offering a nuanced perspective while avoiding unsupported claims or assumptions. Well, all right, I'm gonna say one more thing to AI, and then we'll get back to them tomorrow, because I want them to have somehow to hear from me that I don't want them to forget this, because I ain't got time to finish this today, this argument, but I'll finish it with them tomorrow and see if they acknowledge that. Here we go. And I wrote, okay, I will find more evidence if that is what it takes for you to acknowledge this. I can't today or at this time, as I must do other things, but will you be up for a session tomorrow? ? No answer. Nothing. Nada. Okay, guys. Well, as you know, I said I was going to go back today and finish the argument that I was having with AI. So here I am, and I'm back, and it's today or tomorrow from the point of view of what you just saw. And this is what I wrote, and this is probably going to be my final hurrah with AI. And I wrote, okay, I'm back. Yesterday, we had a conversation argument where you at first would not acknowledge that the Watchtower ever had a symbol on the right top front page of a knight with a sword and axe crossed. You categorically denied it existed with some vigor. I sent you visual proof with the Watchtower date and volume number, and you finally admitted it was true. Further, you initially refused to admit that the cross and crown was a Templar symbol. Excuse my misspelling. I was trying to go fast. Yet the Wikipedia directly below your answer categorically said it was indeed a Templar symbol. You did admit that the leader of the organization of that magazine, Charles Taze Russell, was himself a Freemason, yet somehow refused to admit he would have been influenced by his own beliefs. So with that in mind, and the fact that Wikipedia acknowledges the cross and crowns as a Templar and Masonic, will you today admit that the Watchtower magazine was affiliated at that time with Templars or Masonic teachings and goals? Thank you for your time. And here we go. And I haven't read this yet myself, friends. This is it. I'm doing it right now in real time. And they write, the Watchtower magazine, particularly in its early years under Charles Taze Russell, did utilize certain symbols and imagery that are also associated with Freemasonry and the Knights Templar, most notably the cross and crown symbol. However, definitively concluding a direct affiliation or shared goals based solely on these symbols is a complex and contentious issue with differing interpretations. Arguments for possible influence. Symbolic overlap. The cross and crown, while a Christian symbol, was also prominently used by Freemasonry and the Knights Templar, leading some to believe Russell's usage suggests Masonic influence. Russell's Freemasonry association. Russell acknowledged having friends who were Freemasons and even alluded to a shared spirit or common ground with them in speech given at the Masonic Hall. Oh, it was given right at the Masonic Hall. So I suppose he did have some affiliation with them. I don't know. For one thing, after they pretended that they never were associated, now if you actually enter into a Masonic temple, they'll disfellowship you. But here is Charles Taze Russell claiming he is a Freemason. I don't know if they're going to admit that here in a minute. They're just saying he acknowledged that they had the same spirit. But he did say in 2 different speeches that he was a Freemason himself. And actually he admitted that all of his congregation, many of them, were Freemasons. But the fact that he gave a speech at the Masonic Hall, the fact that they, to this day, call themselves the Kingdom Hall. I mean, when I was a boy, I remember there were places where Kingdom Halls weren't available because they hadn't built them. And we were still meeting at the Masonic Halls, or the certain county, they would have these halls where you'd meet that were affiliated with Masonic halls. So, this is ridiculous, and I think AI has plenty of access to this information, and which shows in the fact that they're acknowledging these things now. But notice how they say primarily the cross and crown. Well, they didn't even mention, and I didn't either, so I don't think they wanted to mention it, because then if I didn't mention it, they're not going to give it away, right? Because they don't think that I know about it. But they also definitely had the winged sun disk clearly on all of their books that they published for many years. The winged solar bird thing. You can clearly see it visible on the temple in Egypt, the temple of Ramses III, and various other places and temples. And it's not just the Egyptians. You can find it in various nations in Samaria and Babylonian and Akkadian and so forth. It's the winged sun disk. And they used it extensively on all of their literature. So that may be the most prominent symbol that they used on all their books. It says, early Bible students movement. Some argue that the Bible student movement from which Jehovah's Witnesses emerged may have had connections to or been influenced by Masonic ideas in its early stages. Arguments against direct affiliation. No official Masonic links. The Grand Lodge of British Columbia and Yukon has stated that Russell was not a Freemason, and the symbols used predate the fraternity. Well, it's also proven that many people that are Freemasons were never acknowledged. We talked about the other day how President Abraham Lincoln was said to have never been a Freemason, but that doesn't mean he wasn't a Templar, or he wasn't a Knights of the Golden Circle or some other thing, right? So alternative, in fact, if you are of the Knights of the Golden Circle, you're also, by proxy, you are also a Masonic initiated individual. They're the same initiations. So Charles Taze Russell was initiated into the Masonic order. And listen, I'm not saying it's a bad thing. Maybe he was initiated by those who were good and were not yet infiltrated by these Illuminati. So I'm not saying that's a bad thing. And there are times when I think that maybe Charles Russell wasn't such a bad guy. He didn't know everything. I'm not saying he was a prophet, but he had a very good, it was nothing like Jehovah's Witnesses today. They celebrated Christmas, birthdays. They did believe that Jesus was deity. A lot of things that, people today, or Jehovah's Witnesses today, don't acknowledge. Charles Taze Russell believed in going to church on Sunday. He specifically thought that was the Lord's Day. I mean, on and on and on. That salvation was for everyone, not just for a little group. And they were called Bible students. Boy, the wind is really bad today. Sorry, guys. He followed, he openly acknowledged that he believed in the pyramid and this Freemasonry. He openly gave speeches. It wasn't like he was trying to hide it. Part of what he believed was that the Bible was the word of deity, as well as in hand going with the pyramid. He believed that the Egyptian teachings in the pyramid were from our Lord Jesus, and believed in it and taught it and prophesied. He believed in the astrological teachings. He thought that his deity lived on a planet called Alcyon in the Pleiades, which is going back to some kind of Masonic views and so forth. Strange, odd views. But I'm not saying Russell was a bad person. He may have been wrong about many things. But, you know, then one day he ends up dying. Maybe a suicide, maybe it was a hoax. He didn't die that day. Maybe he was murdered, but, you know, ritually murdered, because it was done in a graveyard on Halloween night, October 31st, Halloween night. And he was wearing a Roman toga, and they were doing some kind of ritual. So, look, I don't know. I have no clue. But I acknowledge these symbols go back to Templar. And AI can't do that. So, he says it's a recognized Christian symbol. Well, they've never explained to me what other organizations used it, except for Christian Science and Jehovah's Witnesses. I mean, and the Templars, Masons. You know, I don't know that, I've never seen it on the Baptist literature, but maybe it is, and somebody could look that up for me. I haven't found any, evidence for that, but I'm sure it might have been used somewhere else. But primarily Christian Science and Jehovah's Witnesses and Templars. Russell's statement against Freemasonry. Russell openly criticized Freemasonry, other secret organizations, describing them as grievous evils and incompatible with Christian teachings. I don't know how he could do that standing in a Masonic hall. I'm going to do here like AI did to me. I'm going to say, oh, that's your opinion. Could you provide proof for that? A lack of documented evidence. There is no conclusive historical evidence proving a direct organizational link between the Watchtower Society and Freemasonry or the Knights Templar. Well, I didn't say there was an organizational link. They make it very difficult to find links. We do know, and I've showed you before in other videos, that the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society and the Bible students and all these other organizations that they, corporate entities that they created, were hiding and laundering money through their religion, but through other, it was them doing it, the Watchtower Society or the Bible Students Organization. They had all these millions and millions of dollars in real estate and companies, but they were hiding it through members and through incorporating and stuff like this. They were getting away with things and bookkeeping tricks, as they always do. The Mormons did it. Today, Jehovah's Witnesses are a billions and hundreds of billions of dollars worth of companies and assets that they hide through some financial trickery, the same way they've been doing all along. And everyone knows that the Templars took over the banking. How did Russell acquire the most important port there in Brooklyn, right across the street from the United Nations, without having, that's not even, you don't purchase that land. It is assigned to you. And if he was a Mason, he was initiated by the fraternal Masonic orders and approved. He was writing letters to the Rothschilds talking about, let's take over Palestine, and he was all for the Zionism and all of this. He was a friend of Rothschild. And we could go on and on and on, but AI doesn't seem to have a clue what any of this might mean or the interpretation of it. I think they're hiding it, and this is evidence that all these organizations, you can go to all the, organizations that are commercial enterprises like AT&T or Libby on your label, or car companies or phones or anything, and they all have symbols. And they all have the same symbols that they're using. Stars, crosses and crowns, and occult symbols. Pyramids and the eye of Osiris and all of this. So it's not credible that you say that they're not affiliated. Conclusion. While some symbols and imagery used by Russell and the early Watchtower Society overlapped with those used by Freemasonry and the Knights Templar, and Russell himself had associations with Freemasons, there's no definitive proof establishing a direct affiliation or shared goals between the Watchtower Society and the three organizations. What about the goal to establish Zionism? The writing letters to Rothschild? And what about the New World Order? That's all Jehovah's Witnesses talk about, is the New World Order. And they got a Bible that they published called the New World Bible. And they're talking about the coming of the New Age and the parousia. Right? So, they have all these New Age terms. And, boy, it's windy. They say it's going to have 50-mile-an-hour gusts today. I think we've already experienced it. So they're literally, today, and I think even then, in a sense, they didn't believe that Christ was going to visibly return. They just believed that he would have this parousia, and there'd be a new world order with Zionism at the front of all of this teaching. That the Jews would go back to their homeland and create a new world order. Huh? Yeah, they did believe that. When Russell was the leader of the organization, the Bible Students Organization, they thought that the Jewish Palestinian state would return and rule the world and there'd be a new world order. Seems like a shared goal to me. So you've got the writing of letters to the Rothschilds and the speeches worldwide. Russell went around the world talking about his association with the Freemasons and declaring his allegiance to Zionism. Is that not a connection? Instead, it is more likely that Russell, being influenced by the cultural and symbolic context of his time, might have adopted symbols he found meaningful or impactful without necessarily endorsing the organizations they were associated with, even though he was part of the organization they were associated with, because he admitted he was a Freemason. A free and accepted Mason, he said. The early Bible student movement might have had some members with Masonic leanings. You think? One of the guys that's on the governing body today was just thrown off, I guess, last year. Morris. The Philip Morris Cigarette Company. That's his family. And, I don't know specifically if he personally was behind any of that, but his family may have been. Yeah. It's laughable. But that doesn't mean necessarily an official organizational link or deliberate adoption of Masonic principles. Well, why were every one of the Watchtower Bible and Tract Society's presidents, as far back as I can remember, all of them, connected to the Bavarian Illuminati? Friedrich Franz, Hinschel, Knorr, all these were of German Bavarian descent, with affiliations, obviously. In fact, there are pictures where you can see today the governing body on their hand wearing a Masonic ring. Most of them have the Masonic ring on their finger. You can see it in pictures. They're literally actively showing it on camera, but denying it in person or something, in print. They'll do things and then deny it in print. Ultimately, the question of the Watchtower's early relationship with Freemasonry remains open to interpretation and debate. So as you can see, friends, there's no point in me going any further with this. They will deny it till the day they die. Like Charlton Heston said, you'll take these cherished beliefs and opinions from my cold, dead hands. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there, guys. That's it. We're done for today. Get this viral. Share it with Jehovah's Witnesses and Extra Witnesses and Mormons and all the rest, and Adventists and everybody who wants to know the truth, Templars and Masons alike. I'm David Vose. I'm going to let you go. The Lord will bless you. He loves you all. We'll see you tomorrow. Have a good one.